Hello dear friends, in this class we are going to discuss about the elastic constants. I hope you all remember about the Young's modulus, which we have discussed in the stress strain topic. Young's modulus is an elastic constant. Apart from Young's modulus, we have got two more constants, which are one is the shear modulus and second one is the modulus of rigidity. So in this class, we are going to discuss the various features of these elastic constants and how they are related to each other. So Young's modulus is basically the material's ability to resist deformation. It is nothing but the stiffness. So every body resists the deformation, and the amount of this resistance can be easily understood by the values of Young's modulus. Higher the Young's modulus means it is very difficult to deform the material. If you compare this particular explanation that I have given right now with the stress strain curve, we can easily understand. Just take the slope of the stress strain curve and you can easily understand how, when the slope is going to be high and when the slope is going to be low, and what happens when the slope is low and what happens when the slope is high. So it is purely stating the amount of deformation or the resistance to the deformation that a material can undergo. So it is in a way the measure of stiffness of a material. Okay, and it also helps us to calculate the relationship between Young's modulus to bulk modulus to shear modulus, and even to find out the Poisson's ratio also. Young's modulus is very much needed. And one major thing that you have to keep in your mind is that Young's modulus is a property of a material, but we cannot conclude that it will be constant always. The reason is that in mechanics of solids, we are dealing with linear, elastic, homogeneous, isotropic material. But if you take the case of a composite, the composition is going to change in x direction, y direction, as well as the z direction. So the properties. That means if you take the case of a composite, Young's modulus will be different in these three directions. So we cannot conclude that Young's modulus will be constant for all the material. No, we cannot say like that. Anyway, in this subject, that means mechanics of solids, we can say that the metals and the alloys that we are going to discuss is having a constant Young's modulus. And also, this Young's modulus is also going to change with respect to temperature just because of the change in the interatomic bonding of the atoms. And if you look at this particular graph, we can see the range of values of Young's modulus of various materials, not only the engineering materials, that means metals and alloys. That is the major area where we are going to limit our discussion. And the value of Young's modulus is going to be vary from 13 to 400 gigapascals. That's not the case of wood, rubber, etc. And if we take the ceramics, etc., we can see higher Young's modulus when we compare it with the metals and the alloys. But usually we will limit the discussion, or we are going to limit the discussion for the metals and alloys, where the value is going to change from 13 to 400. And usually the way in which we are going to represent the Young's modulus is in gigapascals. So it's already given here. So when the stiffness or when the Young's modulus increases means it is more stiff. When it reduces means it is very flexible. So if you look at these materials also, you can understand this. So if you take a metal to rubber, you can easily understand about the flexibility and the stiffness for a particular load applied. Okay. So when we go to the shear modulus, this is another important thing which requires some explanation. So if we apply a load in order to change the shape of a material, if you take a material and if you try to apply a load to change the shape, and if the material changes its shape, then we have to discuss about the shear and the shear modulus. So it is usually represented by using the letter G, and shear stress is equal to G into shear strain. This is a very conventional way of representing the shear modulus. Now we have to understand what exactly is this shear stress. Shear stress is nothing but, tau is nothing but what? Is the shear force upon area. So what is the area that we are going to consider here? This is the area where this particular force is applied. So shear stress is force upon area, and thereby we can define the modulus of rigidity as tau by shear strain. And it is also in a way giving us the explanation or quantitative manner of expressing the rigidity value. And another important thing is that this modulus of rigidity G reduces as the temperature increases. That means rigidity means what? It is resisting its change in shape. So as the temperature increases, what happens? The modulus of rigidity decreases. Thereby we can easily deform the material. This particular property is mainly utilized or used in the metal forming industries, where you will be changing the shape of a metal to a particular shape, deep drawing. All these things requires higher temperature to reduce the G value. Thereby we can easily change the shape of this material. And also it has got a change with respect to the pressure also. As the pressure increases, the G value also increases. Basically, this is something related with the rigid nature. That means rigidity means what? A rigid body means a body which will not change its shape even after the application of load. That's how we define the rigid bodies in the mechanics of solids. So when a body tried to maintain its shape means what? It's a rigid body. So that's the reason why we call the shear modulus as the modulus of rigidity itself. And I have already told you that the circumstances under which we define all these elastic constants, which is under the linear, homogeneous and isotropic nature. So this is the main area under which we are going to discuss the entire materials in the mechanics of solids. This table gives us the value of Young's modulus of, sorry, not the Young's modulus, shear modulus and the Young's modulus of different material. So if you take the steel as example, you can see the Young's modulus is 207 and the corresponding shear modulus is comparatively very less, 83. But usually the value of steel is not a constant one, 207, no. We have got different types of stainless steel alloys. So usually the value is ranging from 200 to 210. That is the normal range of the Young's modulus of the stainless steel. And if you compare this, the Young's modulus as well as the shear modulus, you can see the variation. The shear modulus are comparatively lower in magnitude when we compare the elasticity, modulus of elasticity or the Young's modulus. We have to discuss about the bulk modulus. I think this is a topic which requires some explanation because we haven't discussed about the bulk modulus. See, when we apply a load, for example, let us take this case, we apply a load in the x direction as well as the y direction as well as the z direction. If you consider a loading like this, we can say that the material is going to deform in the x direction, y direction as well as the z direction. Thereby, a change in volume will happen. So the bulk modulus is something related with the change in volume. So basically, the volumetric strain is nothing but the change in volume upon the original volume. So due to the application of the load, a volume change has happened and the volumetric strain is the one which we consider here. But the stress is nothing but the direct stress or the normal stresses. Now, don't compare it with the shear modulus because in the shear modulus we discussed about the shear stress. But here we are discussing about the normal stress itself, direct stress, that is the sigma itself. So that is how we define the bulk modulus. So direct stress is nothing but bulk modulus into volumetric strain. This is how we define the bulk modulus. And direct stress I have already explained. Now we need more explanation about the volumetric strain. So how can we relate the volumetric strain to linear strain? It's a very important relation that you should keep in your mind. How can we relate this? For the time being, we will do one thing. We will say that the length, breadth and height of this particular cuboid is L. Let us say so. Okay. So the volume is nothing but L cube, L into L into L. If you differentiate this particular volume with respect to L, we can say that the value is 3L square into dl. And if we divide the system of equation with the volume, dividing using volume will gives dV by V equal to 3L square into dl divided by L cube. So cancelling out L square and cube, we are left with dV by V, which is nothing but the volumetric strain, that is equal to 3dL divided by L. Now, let us take the case in the x direction itself. Okay, let us consider that sigma 1 equal to sigma, sigma 2 is also sigma, and sigma 3 is also sigma. You take the x direction only. If you consider the x direction alone, you neglect about the y and z. What is the strain in the x direction? It is change in length upon original length. If you consider the y direction also, the same. Epsilon y is also the same, no change at all. And same is the case for what? Z direction also. Epsilon z is also the same. So if you add these three together, epsilon x, epsilon y, and epsilon z, we can say the value is nothing but 3 dl by L. You kindly look here, these two values are one of the same. So what we can say, volumetric strain is the sum of linear strains. It's a very simple thing. That means if for a system of load, if you are asked to calculate the volumetric strain, you simply calculate the value of sigma epsilon x, epsilon y, and epsilon z. That is a strain in x direction, y direction, and z direction. You add these together, which will give you the value of volumetric strain. And using this relation, you can calculate the change in volume also, dV by V. You cross multiply with the volume, you will get the value of change in volume. This is a very important relation. And don't get confused about this value of L. You may think that what happens if the value changes? What the stress value? What if the stress value is different? Don't worry, because if this value is A, B, C also, if the stress value is sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3 also, we know how to find out the strain in the x, y, and z direction using the Poisson's ratio. So you simply find the use the Poisson's ratio, find the strain in the x direction, y direction, z direction, and you substitute it here. That is also valid here. So this is a very important relation that you should keep in your mind. Now moving forward, we are going to derive the relationship between the elastic constants. So let us take the relationship between the E and K, how these two are related. So you consider the cuboid, which is acted upon by sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3. For the time being, we are considering that all these stresses are same, which is nothing but sigma. So that means sigma 1 equal to sigma 2 equal to sigma 3. And we know that sigma is equal to E into epsilon for the linear case, and sigma is equal to K into epsilon V for the bulk modulus. Now, if you take the strain epsilon x, epsilon y, and epsilon z, considering that sigma x, sigma y, sigma z is equal, how can we rewrite the system of equation? So this equation can be rewritten as sigma by E into 1 minus 2 mu. Because sigma is common, you can take sigma and E outside. This is also the same equation, sigma by E into 1 minus 2 mu. And this is also same, which is nothing but sigma by E into 1 minus 2 mu. What happens if we add these together? So the left hand side is nothing but epsilon x plus epsilon y plus epsilon z is going to be equal to 3 sigma by E into 1 minus 2 mu. We know that the sum of the linear strain equal to the volumetric strain, which is equal to sigma by K. If we cancel out these two sigmas, we have 3K into 1 minus 2 mu equal to E. This is the relation between the E and K. So E and K is related using the Poisson's relations. 3K into 1 minus 2 mu is equal to E. This is how we define the relationship between E and now we will find out the relationship between E and G. So you consider a force which is acting on the top surface like this, which is represented here F, and it deformed the body from this rectangular box to this shaded portion. Let us define some a diagonal for the material. So this was the diagonal. Name this as A, B, C and D. The C has changed to C dash. Now let us define the diagonal AC. This was the initial diagonal and now it has changed to AC. We will drop a perpendicular from here and we will name this as E. The angle at which the deformation happened is phi. So this angle is also going to be phi and the side is nothing but A. Now first let us discuss what exactly happens to this diagonal. If you take the strain of this diagonal AC, it is nothing but AC dash minus AC divided by AC. So since we have drawn a perpendicular here, we can say that AC is approximately equal to AE. So rewriting this, we can say that AC dash minus AE divided by AC. So what is AC dash minus AE? It is nothing but EC dash divided by AC. Right? This is the strain in the diagonal AC. Now we are going to substitute for this EC dash etc. You consider the diagonal AC. How can we calculate the value of AC using these two values of A, which is nothing but a root of S square plus S square. That is going to be equal to root 2A. So the value of AC is nothing but root 2A. Now if you consider this small triangle, that means CEC dash, since the deformation is very small, we can say that this angle is going to be 45 degree. And if you take the cos value of 45, it is going to be EC dash divided by CC dash. And if you cross multiply, we are going to get EC dash is equal to CC dash into cos 45, which is equal to 1 pi root 2 into CC dash. So now we have a equation for substituting it in the previous one for EC dash. So if you substitute it for the strain of AC, we can say that it is 1 by root 2 into CC dash divided by AC. And AC is nothing but root 2A. Upon substituting, we can say that 1 by root 2 into CC dash divided by root 2 into A. You kindly look at the triangle BCC dash. The triangle BCC dash, if we take the tan phi, which is approximately equal to phi, it's a very small deformation happening in the shape, which is nothing but what? CC dash divided by BC, which is equal to CC dash divided by A. That is available here. So how can we rewrite the equation for the strain in the diagonal AC? It is nothing but phi by 2. This is the strain in the diagonal AC. Now how can we write phi? Phi is nothing but tau by G, shear strain, right? So upon substituting here, we can say that strain in the diagonal AC is nothing but 1 by 2 into tau by G. This is a very important relation you should keep in your mind. That means when the system is acted upon by a force, shear force, the rate of strain happening in the diagonal is half of tau by G. It is not tau by G, it is half of the tau by G. It's a very important relation. Now we will use this relation. We will use this relation for the deriving the derivation between E and G. And we have derived that strain along the diagonal AC is nothing but 1 by 2 into tau by G. Now we are going to change the this force to some normal forces, because we are supposed to relate with the Young's modulus. In Young's modulus, we don't use the shear force. We need some normal forces. For that, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get the same deformation by applying a load like this. Suppose if I apply a load like this in these diagonals like this, what will happen? Sorry, there's a, if you apply a load like this, like this, like this, the material is going to deform in the same manner. Now we have deformed, we have rewritten the sigma in terms of tau. That means if you apply the same shear stress, force by A, F by A is equal to tau. This same shear stress as a normal stress like this, we can have the same deformation, right? Now, if you take the strain happening in the diagonal, AC, this is C and this is C dash. How can we write the strain in the diagonal AC? We have sigma by E plus mu into sigma by E. This sigma by E is the stress acting in the diagonal direction, and this sigma, mu into sigma by E, the stress acting in the opposite diagonal. These stresses, the stress acting in the other diagonal also tries to increase the length of the diagonal, thereby we introduced a positive sign here. So this can be rewritten as sigma by E into 1 plus mu, and we know that this is nothing but 1 by 2 into tau by G. We already told that the value of sigma that we have substituted here is nothing but the shear stress. The value, the magnitude is going to be the same. Then only we are going to get the deformation like this. So if we rearrange this, we can say that tau by E equal to 1 plus mu equal to 1 by 2 into tau by G. Upon cancelling this, we can say that 2G into 1 plus mu equal to E. This is the relation that we have obtained. So in order to have a relation between E and G, first you should know what is the relations of the strain happening in the diagonal AC. Then only you can easily find this relation. So this concept is also very important, how this shear is used as a normal stress to get the same deformation. Now, if we move forward, we are supposed to derive the relationship between E, G and K. That's very simple. We have the relationship between E and G as E equal to 2G into 1 plus mu. We have the relationship between E and K as 3K into 1 minus 2 mu. From the first equation, if you sort out the value of mu, you are going to get the value of mu as E by 2G in minus 1. And you substitute the value of mu in the second equation. And if you rearrange, you will get an equation like this. E equal to 9 kg divided by G plus 3K. So this is the relationship between E, G and K. In this relationship, we don't have the Poisson's ratio. So this is that's what I have already I had told you in the first slide, that this Young's modulus can be used to find out the Poisson ratio and the other modulus of velocity. So that's the reason. See, if you have the value of Young's modulus and rigidity modulus, you can easily calculate the value of mu. If you have the value of E and mu, you can calculate the value of G. So these are related to each other in different ways. So kindly keep all these things in mind, and the problems related to the elastic constants, volumetric strains are very important. So that's all for today's session. Thank you all. See you with some other topics in the mechanics of solids. Bye.